I've owned a total of 9 Mazdas in the past 6 years, and I'm gonna rank each one from best to worst. I hope everyone is having an incredible day today. I have owned 10 cars since I got my license 7 or 8 years ago or 6 years ago, something like that, and 9 of them have been Mazda. One was actually a Ford recently, and technically Ford owned a big share of Mazda in that time, so I could technically rank it, but I'm gonna leave it out of today's list. And before we get into today's video, if you guys haven't heard already, I am finally launching my own brand. If you guys click the link up in the top right and sign up with your own email, I'm gonna send you a discount when we launch. With that being said, let's go ahead and get ranking. Here beside me, I have the tier maker that you might have seen in a lot of videos, and we're gonna use it today to rank the 9 Mazdas I've owned. I currently own my first car, which is a 2007 Mazda 3. I've owned a 2012 MazdaSpeed 3, a 1991 Mazda 323, a 2007 MazdaSpeed 3, a 2007 Mazda 3, which is the second one, a 1993 Mazda Miata, a 2005 Mazda 3, which I still own, a 2007 MazdaSpeed 3, which is the second one, and a 1992 Mazda MX-3. Now, when we rank these cars today, I want you guys to know that they're kind of based on my experience with them. For example, I've had 2 of the same car. One might have been better than the other, so one might get ranked better than the other. We're gonna leave my 2007 Mazda 3 for last, considering that it has been the main car, so we will save that for last. Starting with the second car I've ever owned was the 2012 MazdaSpeed 3. This car was an immaculate car, like probably one of the cleanest cars I've ever owned. I only had it for a year and a half, 2 years before I ended up by getting rid of it. I didn't get too much into it. From what I experienced, it was an okay car. I definitely prefer the first gens over the second gens. I think the second gens are just a little too much Ford for me. Like, it's actually like the interior is like Ford. It's kind of like just wasn't pleasant. The driving experience was okay. Again, kind of the same thing with the first gen, but it just didn't feel like a hot hatch to me compared to a first generation. So with the second generation, I will put it B. Does that hurt feelings? Did I hurt some feelings there? S is like top tier, best car. B, C is like, it could do better, but it was all right. And then D is just like, this was kind of just, I put it in B because like I said, it just kind of was like, it doesn't compare to the first gen for me. Like, it really doesn't. It's a good car, but I think it definitely could have been a little bit better in some aspects. My third car I ever owned, 1991 Mazda 323, a tin can on wheels. Oh my God, that thing was epic. It's now a cube. It was crushed into a cube. It's recycling. You're probably drinking, the Stanley Cup that you're drinking out of, that's probably part of that car. I've never had so much fun building a car before, and we didn't even really build it. We just did so little things, many things to it though, and it was just such a joy to drive. Like, oh my God, it was the slowest thing I've ever driven, but really the most minimum thing you could get in a car, but it was just fantastic. Next up was my first gen MazdaSpeed 3 2007. You guys might remember Amber. This was a mixed feelings car. When it drove, it was epic. I remember smiling like crazy on the car. Oh my God, it was so good to drive, but when it wasn't, it was a nightmare. That thing was rusty. It sucked to work on. Every time I fixed something, something would break. Yeah, that lasted only about a year. It was really cheap. It was a good purchase. It was fun. That was probably one of the best cars actually that did well on the channel. And then I got rid of it. A, because it was probably one of my favorite cars, but I want to put an S because it was polished shit. Next up is my second 2007 Mazda 3. You guys probably won't even really know about this thing. I made like maybe 3 videos on it ever. I bought it for 80 bucks. Like, I literally bought this car for 80 bucks. Fixed quite literally everything on that car with junkyard parts, turn it into a machine. Like, immaculate, beautiful car. And we donated it. We actually donated that car to someone that needed a car. So that was an awesome project that we did way back in 2020, I think it was. This car drove incredible. It was a good car for what it was, what it had been. And I believe it's actually still kicking around today as a daily driver, which is super awesome. With that being said, it is mid just because there was a lot of specialness to it, but it was just a Mazda 3 at the end of the day for us. The 1993 MX-5. I had this car for over 2 years. I didn't do much with this car. I did get to drive it quite a bit at the end of 2022. It was a 1.6 open diff, headrest speakers, you know, the whole thing. I'm gonna hurt a lot of hearts here, but honestly, I really want to put it C. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. I really want to put it C. I think I did that just so I didn't get haters. The Miata was okay. It was a go-kart. It was an actual go-kart on wheels. I think to actually have an incredible amount of fun with that car on the street, you definitely need just a hair bit more power out of it. I think a 1.8 might be pretty good with the LSD, but an open diff 1.6, yes, it was a go-kart, but it lacked a lot. It was slow. It was pretty slow. It was okay. Like I said though, it was an awesome car to drive. It was really, really fun in the nimble corners. A momentum car for sure, but it did lack the worst thing I've ever owned. The 2007 MazdaSpeed 3 I bought a few months ago. June or July, I think. Anyways, I don't have that car anymore. I know you guys have asked about it a few times. If you guys want to know what happened about it, I'll make a video on it. But yeah, that's not around anymore. Did a ton of work to it and made it a beast. That thing hauled ass. That was a fully bolt-on MazdaSpeed 3. That was a good example of a clean MazdaSpeed 3. It just had a little bit of rust, but it was a lot better than my red one, Amber, which we had. I really, really enjoyed that car. I had a ton of fun with it in the peak of summer. With that being said, I don't think it was perfect. I feel like I should put that as A, but I don't think it belongs there. I didn't really get to experience the whole thing. The build was already kind of built. It was pretty much the better version of Amber, but for some reason, I just remember Amber just being a bit more fun when it was driven, which I feel makes those cars equal. Next up is the 1992 Mazda MX-3. I've not driven this car. C doesn't have an option yet, so I'm gonna put it into C. I haven't driven it, but it does have a beast of a motor swap in it. That should be getting pretty done here pretty quick. I was actually gonna work on it this weekend, but I busted my thumb, so just more delays. Like I said, I know these cars can be an absolute monster, so we'll have to re-rate that once we get around to it. But never the end, the 2007 Mazda 3, the one that started it all, the one that got us here today. This is currently in its show car phase. You guys know. You guys already know. Boom. There's a reason I've owned a Mazda 3 sedan for 8 years, dude. This car's been with me forever, through it all. Maybe it's time to move on at the end of the year, we'll see. Yeah, no, it's been just a top-notch car. And that is all of the Mazdas I've ever owned, rated by myself. If you guys enjoyed, make sure that subscribe button, leave a like on the video, and comment down below what your favorite was on the channel that you watched. Other than that, guys, thank you so much again. Keep it real. I'll see y'all in the next one.